जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी 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 यमुनातीरा जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Jaya Radha Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Nitai Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtake Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 5, chapter number 6, verse number 7 and 8. So 7 is not having purport, so that is why we are covering 7 and 8. The chapter name is The Activities of Lord Rishabhadeva. So this is a bit difficult meter to recite. I'll just try my best to recite. Tasya havayev muktalingasya bhagavata rishabhasya yogamaya vasanaya deha imam jagatim abhimanabhasena sankramamana kunka venka kutakan dakshina karnatakan deshan yadrichayopagadah kutakachalopayana asya kritasma Kavala Unmada Iva Mukta Murdhajo Samvita Eva Vichachara. Anybody would like to try to recite in a better way? So I don't know which chandas it is. So these kind of verses are called specific name is there. I don't know what it is. Gadya. Okay. So we'll go to the next verse. You'll just see the synonyms and then we'll go. Tasya, of him, Lord Rishabhadeva, Hava, as it were, Evam, thus, Muktalingasya, who had no identification with the gross and subtle body. Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rishabhasya, of Lord Rishabhadeva. Yogamaya, Vasanaya, by the accomplishment of Yogamaya, for the purpose of Lord's pastime. Dehaha, body. Imam, this. Jagatim, earth. Abhimana, Abhasena, with the apparent conception of having a body of material elements. Sankramamana, traveling. Kunka Venka Kutakan, Kunka Venka and Kutaka. Dakshina in South India. Karnatakan, in the province of Karnataka. Deshan, all the countries. Yadrichaya, of his own accord. Upagataha, reached. Kutakachala, Upavane, a forest near Kutakachala. Asya, within the mouth. Krita asma kavalaha, having put a mouthful of stone. Unmadaiva, just like a madman. Mukta murdajaha, having scattered hair. Asamvitaha, naked. Iva, just. Vichachara, travelled. We'll go to the next verse. The translation. Translation and purport by His Excellency Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Actually, Lord Rishabhadeva had no material body, but due to Yogamaya, he considered his body material, and therefore, because he played like an ordinary human being, he gave the mentality of identifying with it. Following this principle, he began to wander all over the world. While traveling, he came to the province of Karnataka in South India and passed through Konka, Venka and Kutaka. He had no plan to travel this way, but he arrived near Kutakachala and entered a forest there. He placed stones within his mouth and began to wander through the forest, naked and with his hair disheveled like a madman. We go to the next verse. Atasamira Vega Viduta Venu Vikarshana Jatogra Dhavanalastadvanam Aleli Anaha Sahatena Dadaha. Just you can, somebody can try to, it's a bit difficult to repeat. Okay, let me just break into small. Ata Samira Vega Viduta Venu Vikarshana Jatogra Dhavanalastadvanam Alelihanaha Sahatena Dadaha. Atha, thereafter, Samira Vega, by the force of wind, Viduta, tossed about, Venu, of bamboos, Vikarshana, by the rubbing, Jata, produced Ugra, fierce, Davanala, a forest fire, Tat, that, Vanam, forest near Kutakachala, Aleli Hanaha, devouring all around, Saha, with, Tena, that body, Dahaha, burnt to ashes. Translation and purport. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While he was wandering about, a wild forest fire began. The fire was caused by the friction of bamboos which were being blown by the wind. In that fire, the entire forest near Kutakachala and the body of Lord Rishabhadeva were burnt to ashes. Purport. Such a forest fire can burn the external bodies of the animals, but Lord Rishabhadeva was not burnt. Although he apparently seemed so, Lord Rishabhadeva is the super soul of all living entities within the forest, and his soul is never burnt by fire. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Adahyoyam, the soul is never burnt by fire. Due to Lord Rishabhadeva's presence, all the animals in the forest were also liberated from material engagement. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadate Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The translation of the second verse. While he was wandering about, a wild forest fire began. This fire was caused by the friction of bamboos, which were being blown by the wind. In that fire, the entire forest near Kutakachula and the body of Lord Rishabhadeva were burnt to ashes. Of course, in the purport, Prabhupada gives further clarification on that about the body. So we have been discussing this particular chapter and this series of verses for last couple of months. And as we see, each part, each episode of Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam is very unique. So we will not find some similar episode or similar thing anywhere else in any other chapter actually. So each personality is very unique. That makes the whole Bhagavatam very interesting. So as we know that Rishabhadev is a son of Maharaj Nabi, and Nabi performed a lot of austerities and penances to get Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. So he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in these two verses we are hearing about winding up pastime of Lord Rishabhadev. It is towards end and how he is winding up his pastime. And they mentioned, this particular place in the earlier verse, Dakshina Karnatakan and Kunka Venka something. I was trying to find out which is this place exactly, whether it is the so-called current state of Karnataka actually, and it is. And this Kutakachala, the place what they referred, so there is a big hill now also, a big forest, and that place is only slightly name is changed. That place, the forest name is Kodachadri. So there is a place near, this is not very far away from Udupi. So this place is about maybe around 60-70 kilometers or less than 100 kilometers from Udupi. And this is where Rishabhadev left his body. So amazing places are there. Many people may not know actually. And I don't think there is anything of Rishabhadev in this particular place, because that particular place, Kollur, is famous for one Devi temple actually, Kollur Mukambika temple. But about Rishabhadev, not much heard actually. And So out of 100 sons, one of the son, so he was very austere, he was performing tapasya, and it is, he followed Rishabdev to some extent, and his body is statue, the idol, what they have, not the deity form, whatever they worship. So that is a naked deity actually. So the huge deities, and once in 12 years they perform abhishek, this is called Mastak Abhishek, and once in 60 years they call something called Mahamastak Abhishek. And lot of Jain sadhus who are Digambar sadhus, they don't wear anything, they are naked. They come and perform these abhishek actually. So that is how we can see connection of Rishabdev and how that same tradition is still followed by certain, religious groups actually. So then we can go further, though we will never, okay. So this from Rishabdev's pastime, what we can see is his towards the end, of course, in the chapter 5, Rishabdev gives very detailed teachings to his sons, headed by Bharat Maharaj. And at that time, and after that, he takes up, into some kind of Avadut lifestyle actually, even though he was the emperor of the world, he ruled the world, and after that, towards end of this thing, once he hands over the kingdom to his sons, and some of his sons were like great kings, and some were great brahmanas actually. So after handing over, and he takes up the life of Avaduta, which is also very unique. You will not find any other personality of Godhead coming and taking up this particular role. So Lord want to show this aspect of life also actually through Rishabdeva's pastimes actually. And so, and what happened actually after Rishabdev, that area was ruled by one king. His name is, just a minute, I'll try to figure out. Arhat, his name is Arhat. And he, without really following teachings of Rishabdev, he just followed what Rishabdev did actually. So that, going naked and all those things. And that people followed because he was a king. So yadyada acharati shrestha tatta deve taro janaha. So many people followed. So that gave birth, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the next purport. So that is the origin of Jainism actually. Wherein you follow Rishabdev's, the external acts without accepting Rishabdev's teachings actually. So Prabhupada gave that clarification, and so one should be very careful. So one should not imitate great personalities without following their teachings. So that is what we can see in the further verses, we can understand. And basically we should understand Rishabdev's teachings actually, the teachings he gave to his sons. So in this world we can see the many, even followers of certain religions and other people also, they take some part of scripture, some part of something, and then, they consider that is all in all. The most of the other important aspects are rejected. So I was hearing one class, one brahmachari from Pune temple only, and he was mentioning a few years ago there was one person who was a yoga teacher. He came and he gave class. So he gave class and he was referring to one particular verse of Bhagavad Gita. Yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta sapna abodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. So he was mentioning that this is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Just see what is mentioned there, yoga. So you should everybody should follow yoga. So this is the kind of things, deviations we can find actually. Pick up something, okay, this is true, said by Krishna. But that is not the ultimate conclusion. There are so many other aspects of Bhagavad Gita that we can learn. So like, when we go for book distribution, some people quote also, हमें भक्ति वगैरह नहीं करना है, हम तो कर्म योग फॉलो करने में, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते, बट दैट्स ऑल, ओनली वन पार्ट दे कोट, एंड हम कर्म करते हैं एक्चुअली, हम कर्म के ऊपर विश्वास रखते हैं एक्चुअली. सो and they don't know actually what are the different kinds of karma, and that karma leads them to where. So this understanding is not there. And that is why we find that Srila Prabhupada suggested reading Srimad Bhagavatam in proper sequence, canto by canto, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, so that you don't miss out. Like if Rishabhadeva's pastime, if somebody reads only the chapter which we are reading now, so then he will miss all the teachings of Rishabhadeva actually. So because those austerities, whatever is performed, that austerities is meaningless if we are not taking the essence of that austerities. That is very important. So tattva we should understand actually why austerity. It is said that he was putting stones in his mouth, and just by putting stones one will not become a advanced personality actually. So one need to follow, and this maybe he demonstrated this for one way of controlling the senses, urges of the mind and urges of the senses. However, that is not all in all. The teachings are most important. Like similar way some people can quote actually, neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayas. It is said swalpa, आप इतना क्यों कर रहे हो एक्चुअली, भगवान बताते हैं स्वल्प करो. सो आप सब छोड़ छाड़ के सब कुछ, so but clarification is there in the next verse Krishna gives, that is 2.41, that was 2.40. व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि एकेह कुरु नंदना बहुशाखा जनंताश्च बुद्धय व्यवसायना. For those who are on the path are resolute in purpose, their aim is one. O beloved child of Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So Krishna gives immediate clarifications, but we should not miss that particular point, that particular aspect. So we can take the further descendant of Rishabhadev, that is Maharaj Bharat Maharaj. So, and we can see the pastime of Maharaj Bharat also is amazing actually. Though he learnt all the teachings, everything, and he was highly elevated personality, and he was also at the time of towards his retired life, or after handing over the kingdom to his grown-up sons, and he decides to take up the serious practice of bhakti. And he was at the stage of, we all know, he was at the stage of bhava actually. Then what happens? Yes. So one should be extremely careful that even at any stage in life the things can become topsy-turvy, it can just deviate, and this is what we can learn from Srimad Bhagavatam. He got attached to a small dove, the small deer, and he saw, he wanted to, with all compassion, he wanted to save that, and in the process of saving he got attached to that, he got entangled, and he spoiled completely his consciousness actually, and ended up in taking birth of a deer actually in the next life. And since he was very advanced, so he could recollect his past life and the mistake he did, and this life he was very austere. He didn't want to take any risk. So, and then the next life we know, the life of Jada Bharat. And as a Jada Bharat, we can see Jada Bharat's life is somewhat close to what Rishabhadev followed actually. Because now nothing doing, now I cannot take any risk, and he was acting like dumb and deaf, whatever explanation is given. So, and even though he was internally highly elevated personality, and he was carrying all what was his learnings as Bharat Maharaj, whatever teachings he got from Rishabhadev, and he carried forward, and for the external world he remained like a dumb and deaf personality. And then, we can see his amazing qualities. Suppose if he would have remained just like, and then he would have, gone back home, back to Godhead, then we may not have understood actually his greatness. So, but because of his interaction with King Rahugana, so we can understand how the deep philosophy, understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and that is complete, the series of chapters we can see of, Bharat Maharaj's life, Jada Bharata, and before that Deer, and before that Bharat Maharaj. The complete sequence will give us a clear picture that how important it is to be careful at every step. Otherwise in this world, padam padam yad vipadam natesham. And when we are trying to save someone, how we should be properly grounded. Otherwise, in the process of saving, we may ourselves get drowned. So these are great examples we can see. And there is word, Davanala, the forest fire. The material world is compared to Samsara Davanala Lidaloka. So here it is that kind of fire everywhere. So one should be protective of oneself. And also this Davanala is, the example is given for the process of bhakti also actually. How this, when the forest fire burns all the, animals and, all the serpents and whatever is there in the fire, likewise the process of bhakti can burn, our propensities. It can burn to the root cause of all the sinful activities, bijam, kutam, everything, all the levels of the propensity to commit sinful activities. So that is the power of process of bhakti actually. We can see these kind of austere personalities are very rare actually. They are not very commonly seen. So commonly we can see, various kinds of, but this kind of austerity. So in our parampara, if you have to see, someone is of this kind of nature is Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So very renounced, very austere. So and he doesn't want to be in the association of, materialistic people. We want to completely away from materialistic people. So and we can see, it is, these are the unique examples. From each example we can learn something. So now once, the Swamiji, one of the senior most Swamiji, he is no more now in this world, Pejaur Swamiji, he visited Radha Gopinath Mandir. And he was speaking and he was, giving a class, and wherein he mentioned that, we, Madhva Sannyasis, to protect ourselves, we are surrounded by, the Brahmanas and so many people around actually, security and all, so that nobody will touch us actually. But he mentioned that your Srila Prabhupada, he went in the midst of all kind of people, hippies, who have, absolutely no samskar actually. They have not come with any kind of samskar, and he mixed with them, and he gave this process of such powerful process of bhakti actually. So we can see on the one side we can see Rishabhadev, and one side we can see Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj, wherein they are extremely careful about not mixing with materialistic people and people of this world. And other side we find Srila Prabhupada, and who in spite of mixing with all people who gave this process to the world. That is something amazing. So that will give us an understanding that what is our level. We are neither there nor here actually, but at the same time give us an understanding of what is our level actually, how much we have to be protected, how much we can give ourselves to the world, because ours is a preaching movement. We go out and for distributing books, especially this month, we come in contact with all kinds of people. And if our consciousness is not right, we will get easily influenced by those external people what we meet. But one who is fixed up, like in one of the principles of book distribution, that strong sadhana, nowadays we are reading every day actually. That is very, very necessary. Without that, it is extremely difficult. And after that, we can give many reasons actually. The ones we are deviated from, from our ashram or of our fixed position. So then we can give, we want to do a lot of things to the world and all those things. But basic thing is that we should be very, very fixed up. And if we have to protect someone, we should be properly grounded. And there is one verse of Bhagavad Gita, the part of verse is referred in this verse. That full verse is Achyadyoyam Adahyoyam Akledyo Shoshayevacha Nitya Sarva Gatas Tanur Achaloyam Sanatanaha. It is, the various qualities of soul is mentioned. It is, Bhagavad Gita 2.23 to 26, these 3-4 verses, various qualities of soul is mentioned. And it is not, the soul cannot be burned actually. This is the quality. And here that clarification is given in the purport, that even though verse says that Rishabhdeva's body is burned to ashes. So that is the pastime part. And why we need to read the purport is, Srila Prabhupada is giving clarification, the soul cannot be burnt. And soul of the normal human beings or any living entity cannot be burnt. What to speak of Supreme Soul, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So there is no question. So it is a pastime, like, some people talk about Lord Krishna's winding up pastime. We don't discuss much. But these personalities, they perform these kind of, acts for atheistic people to have their conviction right. Yes, anybody who comes, he has to give up body. You see, this is what happens. But we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, from the wonderful purports, that the soul cannot be burnt. And there is no question of soul getting burnt of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and can neither be burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. This is what this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita is stating. So there are some important aspects of purports of these verses. All these qualifications of atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the Supreme Whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite and the atomic soul is infinitesimal, Anu and Vibhu. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in short, what we can understand from the various purports and this particular verse is that any teaching should be accepted in totality, not in bits and pieces. So that is very important. So these are like the set of recipes. Of course, there are certain verses which are so powerful, like, you can perfect your life with these verses, but at the same time, we cannot deviate from the basic principles by taking reference of one particular verse with our own understanding. Like, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishtuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. This one verse can perfect a personality actually. All the qualities required for a personality is given actually. But at the same time, we cannot ignore all other teachings. So we have to just take the essence. Hence, reading of scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam gives us broader perspective of spirituality and spiritual life by learning from various great personalities, various incarnations, various conversations, and various prayers. We can learn so many things from each one. You take example of Kunti Maharani's prayer, or like Prahlad Maharaj prayers. So many prayers are there in Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein from each prayer we can understand position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our own position. And each is very unique in its own way, and that can make us, by reading this Bhagavatam, one can become a complete personality. Like, people conduct various personality development courses and all these things. Srimad Bhagavatam is the best personality development course. There cannot be anything better than Srimad Bhagavatam. And we have examples in our community, in our in the ISKCON movement. There are people who used Srimad Bhagavatam for teaching homeschooling their children actually. And we can see, the effect of that. Because sometimes we feel that, okay, these are scriptures. We keep aside the scriptures from our regular, study books. But there are devotees who have combined this so nicely. What are the basic skills are required for one person to perform anything? Like nowadays we see the people do engineering in one particular field and they work for IT companies. The 4 years they studied for a particular branch of engineering, then they get into IT, and which they never studied actually. So one of our senior Mataji, Srila Prabhupada disciple, that is Aruda Mataji actually. And she explains actually what are the ingredients required for anyone to perform really in this world also actually. And all these things are very nicely given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes people feel that just if you read, then how will you face the world? So these are not ordinary case studies actually. These are very powerful case studies, and also not just the case studies for a material content. It has got its own falashruti. Just by reciting these verses, just by reading these verses, it gives so much of inner strength and so much of purification of the heart takes place by reading, by hearing these pastimes. So we are in the month of now marathon, we are distributing books, and it's a great opportunity for us to, purify our own consciousness. So, and also there is some kind of a social pressure also, created by our Sarva Lakshan Prabhu and team. So you have to do something, and Prabhuji is, setting example, very high example himself actually. And our leaders are setting example, like, Radhesham Prabhu himself is distributing, hundreds of thousands of Bhagavatam sets. And, we have leaders like Vaisheshika Prabhu and so many, leaders across the globe, and they are setting great examples actually how we should be doing that. So we can understand for purifying ourselves how many avenues, how many types of services Srila Prabhupada created in this movement. And depending on our psychophysical nature, we can pick up something and we can grow. We can purify our existence. And this far and wide distribution of these wisdom literatures, people get exposure to complete understanding and does not get bewildered with some incomplete knowledge coming from unscrupulous sources, and consider that as all in all actually. So otherwise we can see there are so many concocted philosophies, but anybody who come in contact with Bhagavatam, if he read Bhagavatam, if he read Bhagavad Gita, then his understanding will be totally different than what it was before actually. And it is Srila Prabhupada's mercy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy that we are very, very fortunate to get connected with this kind of movement wherein, we will not be very selective in our understanding. We have complete picture of what is spiritual life. And who taught us, following and how one should follow the, the spiritual path, not just end up imitating. Srila Prabhupada is very clear on that. Many a times, many even sincere people who want to follow in the spiritual path or follow some religious principle, and they get trapped in this actually, because they find that, this is the personality who is doing this, I need to follow. I need to, it's not following actually, it is imitating. By imitating, one get deviated from the path he is supposed to follow. So for us, if we are fixed up in Krishna consciousness, there are innumerable, engagements. There is no time for us to even look at those kind of, the possibility of deviation. But unfortunately, when we, identify certain things which just fits our mind, that is where we get into trouble. But if we are very, very fixed up and we are properly guided by, Sadhu Shastra and Guru Sadhu Shastra, so these are three check and balance system, then we are safe. Otherwise there is always possibility that one may deviate, one may get impressed by certain personality, and one may try to imitate, and one may fall down from the position. So this is what we can learn from this great pastime, that how Rishabhadev, as the emperor of the world, how he ruled the world, how he taught the next generation what is the right thing to do, and to protect himself, what he did. This is something very unique. So, and then even after learning all these things from Supreme Personality of Godhead Rishabhadev, his elderly son, to whom Rishabhadev asked all of his other sons to follow, and he himself elevated to such a level of stage of bhava, and from that stage he just fell down from that particular stage. Of course, that is the reason why it is these kind of episodes in Srimad Bhagavatam, for all of us to follow, for all of us to understand. And how even from that stage, how he recovered. That is the amazing, pastime. How one recovers actually. So whatever Rishabhadev's teachings, Bharat Maharaj followed, and he demonstrated to all of us how one can reach to that level, and if any deviation takes place, what was the main reason for his deviating from the path? Yes, because Bharat Maharaj didn't had all these association. So we are so fortunate that we have such wonderful association, and who can protect us. And so that is what was missing in case of Rishabhadev. And then since he was highly elevated, and he could recollect and recuperate, and he could come back. But in our case, if we deviate, then we don't think we may be able to remember all those things, and all those things, it may take so many births, we don't know, because whatever we do in the process of bhakti, we all know that will not be lost actually, that will remain. but it gets covered up for how many lifetimes we don't know actually. So we have to protect whatever we got from Srila Prabhupada, from this movement, and protect it, preserve it, share it with others by, in whatever way, by distributing books or by distributing, whatever we learned. Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you understood one particular principle, one particular thing, follow it and share it with others. This is very simple preaching. It is not that we have to read all the literatures which is published by our movement till date and then we'll start preaching, then we'll be ready. If you understood, if you applied one thing, one principle in your life, just share with others. So you get the benefit, and Krishna is pleased with such persons. But Lord Krishna says that, anybody who, propagate my teachings to others or glorification to others, he is most dear to Lord Krishna actually. And we have so many examples to follow in our own movement from our acharyas, and so then we will not be bewildered when we hear. Otherwise we find that Rishabhadev, he was naked, he was, rolling on his, on the stool and urine and all those things. What is this? But when we see the bigger picture, when we have complete understanding of various personalities, then we get a clear understanding. This is, something very unique for a certain kind of personalities. All need not to follow in the same way. There are so many other ways one can protect, one can get oneself engaged. So that is the broader picture we can understand. I think we are just finished the time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. If there is any comments, any questions, if any questions is there, Swaralakshmi Prabhu is here. So anything, any additions for 2 minutes? Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class. I had this question from a long time. This like Prabhupada about many religions like Christianity, Islam and about other religions. He speaks that we accept their teachings, and he says we accept Jesus Christ as Guru, and even Islam also. But here we see outrightly Prabhupada says Jainism is like a deviation. So I used to wonder if somebody from Jain background, he reads this and if he asks us a question and how this is written like this. So what should be our response? How we should answer them?
Yeah.
Because I asked this question to Gaur Gopal Prabhu, he is from Jain background.
Yes.
So he said from whole Bhagavatam you have only this section to tell. But if somebody asks us from Jain background that how this Jainism is condemned in Bhagavatam, so how should we respond?
Yeah, it's very simple, because if they are following some part of that, that is of, chapter 6, we have to just show them chapter 5. This is your role model. From there all the, your religion is coming from, because many of them may not know, because current Jainism is not completely directed with Rishabhadev, because there are after that 24 Tirthankar, that is Mahavir. So current teachings are mainly from Mahavir actually. So some further teachings actually. But if they are, they are austere actually. They perform lots of austerities, but without focusing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If they just go back, like, some of the austerities, whatever Rishabh they performed, that is there, and they are extremely good in austerities. It's very difficult for anyone to follow what they follow actually. Now, not everyone, the people who really follow, is quite austere. And what is the purpose of this austerity? Because many people, they perform austerity, they become austere, but they use all the energy what they gain for some materialistic engagements. There are people who are big industrialists actually with the Jain background, because they are pure vegetarians, no question, not even, they don't take even the roots actually, because that again also is comes some possibility of some violence. So they perform all these things, but whatever the energy they get, they invest it for only materialistic purpose. But if they just look at what Rishabhadev, he is the, the founder, they call it as Rishabhanath or Adinath. So Adinath's teaching in Srimad Bhagavatam, they may not know about it. So if we give that reference, 5.5 Srimad Bhagavatam, that chapter, if you are able to expose to them, so if they read that, then they clearly understand what the Adinath, what Rishabhadev taught actually, and where are we. So then they have a much better understanding. We can see, that is why we can see Gaur Gopal Prabhu kind of devotees, because they come with that kind of background, austere background, and when they understand, the process of bhakti, they take up, they flourish. So this is what we can give them. We have great opportunity that, Rishabhadev, his pastime is there. He is your Adinath, Adiguru. Take Srimad Bhagavatam set. Here it is. Here it is. This is the perfection of Jainism and all other isms. So this is what my little understanding, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, want to add something, you can. Prabhuji can give a whole Vedic encyclopedia, not just Bhagavatam, he can add, Prabhuji.
एक्चुअली मैं जब मार्केट यार्ड में जाता हूँ तो ये लोग बोलते हैं कि जैनिज्म, लेकिन वो खुद नहीं खाएंगे, लेकिन मैं देखा उनका दुकानों में चिकन मसाला, मटन मसाला, बिरयानी, वेजिटेबल, ये सब मसाला वो बेचते हैं. बिकॉज ऑफ नॉट हैविंग दिस कंप्लीट पिक्चर, है ना, वो खुद तो पालन करते होंगे, वो कांदा नहीं खाएंगे, गाजर भी नहीं खाते, बटाटा भी नहीं खाते, लेकिन बट दे आर इनडायरेक्टली दे आर मेकिंग वायलेंस. तो गोपाल कृष्ण महाराज एक क्लास में बता रहे थे कि एक दे आर इनटू बिजनेस, मनी, दे आर नॉट ईटिंग. तो साउथ इंडिया में एक ऐसा बिजनेसमैन है, उनका बहुत बड़ा बड़ा कत्तल खाना है. तो जैनिज्म में ऐसा इन लोगों को हम प्रचार तो नहीं कर सकते हैं, बट वी कैन एंगेज देयर मनी इन प्रॉपर बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सो दैट दे हैव मनी एंड दे आर गिविंग ऑल्सो. तो कुछ थोड़ा देते भी है. तो हम डेली मार्केट यार्ड में जा रहे हैं, बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करने जा रहे हैं. वहाँ पर ज़्यादा करके जैन लोग ही है. तो कुछ लोग देते नहीं है, कुछ लोग देते भी है. उनका जो वो राइस वगैरह देते हैं, राइस देते हैं मंदिर में, जो भी राइस लेके जाओ, पैसा नहीं देंगे, राइस. तो ऐसे उनका जो अज्ञात सुकृति हम क्रिएट करके थोड़ा एलिवेट कर सकते हैं.
Very good.
हरे कृष्ण.
Hey Prabhuji, thank you very much. Because they don't want you to distribute your books actually. They want to propagate their ism only actually. So but they believe in feeding people actually. So that is why they are interested. Okay, if you are feeding, and cow protection also. They support.
Cow protection, they have. Cow का हुंडी है.
Yes.
But at the same time, they do not know.
Yes.
जो cow masala. So openly they say. Indirectly they themselves follow.
So little teaching is required actually. So right, thank you Prabhuji.
Hari
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.